Coming up on this episode of We're No Damn Experts, we're living up to our name once again as we talk kayaking. We'll share some stories on the water and shore as you learn what not to do.
Best damn podcast, the best damn town. You want to get up, get ready to get down. With its big wide sky and the wild river Thames, if you want to go, we can take you there to Great Falls, Montana.
Welcome to the greatest damn town in Montana, Great Falls. I'm Rebecca Ingham.
And I'm Shannon Newth.
And we're no damn experts. We did it.
I wanted to try that with you today. I didn't forewarn you because I was like, I'm just going to try and see if we can say it together.
Yeah.
See how it feels.
That's how simpatico we are.
Yeah. This is our third episode together.
Yeah.
And it's just the two of us again.
It is.
We just loved it so much.
We had Luke on, well, for you guys last week.
Yes.
And really great conversation. A little bit tough on the audio side for you because Luke likes to talk with his hands, and he didn't like
which I understand
stick into the microphone.
Yeah, we're excited. We're getting some new equipment though, so that'll help with the audio
Movement.
challenges. Yes.
Right now, if you're a podcast guest, you have to eat off the microphone.
Which, if you don't do this ever, or
it's
hardly
awkward.
ever, it's awkward to like get up in it, but that's what it requires.
Yeah. So our new mics sitting right beside us.
Yeah, they're pretty to look at. They're very heavy. You can weight lift with them.
Oh yeah,
which is great.
They're
but
quality.
yeah, we sat down to do this today, and something didn't quite. It was not simpatico with that.
No,
so
it was not.
We'll get it figured out. Thankfully, we both know someone who's really good at this. My husband.
Do.
So,
but more importantly, I think we'll wait until we get our cords in, which I don't know why they haven't showed up yet. But
yeah. We're
that's the way the cookie crumbles.
We're no damn experts at figuring this out on our own, are we? All right.
Today, I'm pretty excited about today's episode.
I'm so curious. I'm so curious about this. I'm curious what you're going to say.
We're going to talk about kayaking.
Mm-hmm.
We've never really talked about kayaking. I mean, we talked with Roland Taylor, who kayaked in Sluiceboxes State Park.
Okay.
But we haven't just talked general kayaking.
Okay, right. In general on the podcast, and you and I haven't really talked about it. We were just, scheduling things like that. We decided it's summer. It's a great time to kayak. Rebecca saw a picture of me. It was my first post to Instagram taking over our Instagram channel. Was me on a kayak.
And I was like, oh, you kayak.
I've been on a kayak a few times, but I've survived, thanks to others.
Right. So this is really the premise of why we're no damn experts.
Yeah.
But since you've been on a kayak, you've been kayaking, I'm going to start at the beginning because I've never been.
Okay. I mean, it's in our name, right? We're no damn experts, but just disclaimer. This is just two
people.
friends, two colleagues talking about kayaking. Please don't take anything I have to say as...
But
golden standard.
A lot of people out there are just like us. They're like, hey, Great Falls is on two rivers.
Yes.
Must be something we can do on the river besides fishing. How about kayaking?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what your decision-making process was to decide, hey, I'm going to start kayaking, but I'm going to start my line of questioning.
Oh, gosh.
With a little story because my husband wants to kayak.
Okay. So, have you... never been kayaking?
Never
been on a kayak?
I've sat on a kayak on the banks of the lake.
Okay.
That was it.
I feel like that's another story, but yeah.
That's all I've done.
Okay.
I mean, we'll get into that. But my husband says we should get kayaks and kayak.
Okay.
And he says this while we were standing on the shores of the Judith River in the Little Belt Mountains as the floodwaters were roaring by.
Robert. No. Bad timing.
And I think I'm not going to kayak that ever. It seems like
smart.
a bad idea.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I'm ever going to devote enough time to the entire profession of kayaking to be at a level where I can whitewater kayak.
Yeah.
Seems like it just takes a little bit more skill.
Yeah. Skill, time, money, dedication.
Yeah. So I say to my loving spouse, you can go kayaking when I am done being married to you. Like at the point in my life when I no longer want you as my partner, I'll buy you a kayak. And that is how you will know
it's time to kayak.
It's time to kayak. And if you die, which I assume is going to be the end result,
at least
everyone wins.
You won't be hurt in that situation because you won't be around for that.
So he's like, it can't be that bad. And I said, I think it requires some balance. So going in to your first kayaking experience.
Yes.
What fears did you have in how either successful or unsuccessful you might be in the kayak? Because my first thought is, how do you stay upright?
So there are different types of water, right? So I will just say most of mine, I've had one experience that was far more intense. And I'll talk about that later. My other couple of times have been on pretty calm. You're mostly floating. It involved beer.
See, that's my kind of kayaking.
Yeah.
Not on the banks of a raging river.
Right. Okay. So it did, and floodwaters.
Don't ever do that.
No, don't do that. So balance, it would be mostly just getting in and out of the kayak is the most challenging part if you're just going on calm water. Especially, so there's different types of kayaks too, which will also, I think, depend your balance level.
How'd you decide what kind of kayak to
get?
Well,
I don't have my own kayak, so it was what was provided for me.
It's kind of helpful, isn't it?
It is helpful. So, okay, so there's, again, my general knowledge of this is that basically there's three basic kinds. You have, oh boy, I don't know what the normal one is called. That like sit in kayaks, right? Okay. So it kind of comes up around you, if you will. You sit down in it.
Okay.
Then there's a topsider kayak where you're basically sitting, the seat is on top of the kayak and it doesn't, your legs aren't enclosed.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yep.
And then there's like a blow up kayak. I have a blow up paddleboard.
Okay.
We can talk, that's a whole nother thing.
Whole nother episode.
Well, I don't know how much traction we can get out of two of these, but yes. So I have so blow up ones, like my paddleboard is, a blow up paddleboard's maybe not quite as stable as a regular paddleboard.
Okay.
So my thought process would be maybe it's a little less stable on a kayak that's a blow up kayak too.
Okay.
My unprofessional thought process there. So I've been on both a topsider and sit in kayak before.
And what were your fears before you decided, I'm willing to get in a kayak?
Mostly that, so this is, you see people go on like whitewater and you have to like know, especially if you're not on a topsider, you're sitting in, like how to roll out and get out of it.
Yeah.
That was my fear. But I was going with a friend who had gone before and we were going on a very calm Missouri River.
Okay.
So that was not
your
Once
fear?
I started, it was fine. Going in, my major fear is that I'm going to get flipped upside down. I'm going to be like strapped in or something, or not be able to like get my legs out of the kayak and drown. That was my fear. That was my fear.
I laugh a little because you're short.
I am short.
Legs aren't very long. It'd be
that
for a short person. I would think it'd be easy
Maybe
to get out.
Comparatively, I could have a little bit easier time getting out. I don't know. But this was also, I didn't know anything about it. So I was like, am I strapped in somehow when I turn over? Like, how do I get out? Because I feel like there's actual like techniques. Like that's a scary thing.
There are. So your first time, you don't even test it out like at Wadsworth. You just jump in a kayak on the river.
Paddleboarding. I took a paddleboarding lesson from, it used to be a place called Anchor Fitness here in Great Falls. It's not here anymore, but the owners did a paddleboarding class. So the first time I was on a paddleboard was out at Wadsworth Pond in a training session of sorts. Kayaking, I think I just got in and went. I'm trying to think when my first time kayaking was.
Did you do your paddleboard lesson before you did your kayak lesson?
Well, I never had a kayak lesson. I feel like I'd been in a kayak before a paddleboard. Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Well before then. I
Okay.
don't know how many times I've been on a kayak, or I don't remember my first experience, but it was not anything intense.
So you had no fear of just generally dying
I mean,
or
a little bit. Like, it's
not
always
being
kind of
able
there.
to get down the river?
Getting down the river was not my concern. It was like getting down it without drowning or flipping it over was my concern. So yeah, I definitely had fears, but it helped. I went with somebody who knew what they were doing. I wore a life vest.
Oh,
Always wear
Safety
the life
first.
vest. Wear the life vest. And it was very calm. So there was not really a big risk. And the water was pretty shallow. So as long as I wasn't turning over, I was like, maybe that's not a good thing. I could just stand up.
oh,
Yeah.
so that reduces the risk. I went whitewater, or not whitewater.
I was like, wait a second. I thought you said
I went
never been.
rafting one
Okay.
time.
Yeah, yeah.
And the safety briefing that we got before we jumped into the raft was, you're going to be going through rushing water. If you fall out, the water isn't that deep. Stand up. Everybody in your rafts. I'm like, oh, this can't be that hard.
Yeah. Did you fall out?
I did.
Did you stand up?
I tried.
Here's the thing. It's rushing water.
I know.
So how are you, like, standing up is a lot more challenging
Yeah.
than just stand up.
Safety briefing made it sound like it was
Yeah,
just a
stand
simple
up.
thing to
Yeah.
do. It's
No,
not a simple
it's not
thing
like you're
to do.
stepping out of bed and standing up. Like,
More importantly, I'm not super coordinated, so telling me to just stand up and rushing water,
Yeah.
I might as well just keep floating down the river until somebody lassos me and brings
Yeah.
me to shore.
Also, okay, yes, rushing water, slippery. You just fell out of something, so you're kind of out of sorts, right? It's
Right,
not like you're
not
just
like you
stepping out.
I didn't expect to be out of the water.
No. So, yeah, just stand up. It's not like that's, I mean, yeah, that's very simplistic sounding.
So,
Did
yeah.
they leave you? What happened?
Well,
Did you have to like run in the water after them?
No, I can't quite remember.
Did
We
you hit
were
your
really
head on a rock?
no, we
Okay.
were already close to shore.
Okay.
When it happened, I think it was a bump on the shore bank that popped me out of the boat.
Gotcha.
The raft, and he's like, oh crap, and so I floated down and eventually caught up with them and then got back into the boat.
Okay.
This is my first time in the raft. There were other people that had done this before. Like their family excursions growing up always included rafting.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the way I grew up.
Okay.
Mine were in boats.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Hard-sided things.
Hard-sided where you just
You
sit
kind
in
of
it.
sit in it, and there's
Yeah.
really no fear of bumping something and falling out the side.
Bouncing out. Yeah.
So I just remember them pulling over. I'm getting back in. I remember laughing a lot.
Well, that's good.
Like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah.
Were you laughing like because you were crying or
No,
just laughing?
Just laughing.
Okay.
I mean, of all the people to fall out of a boat, pick me.
Because you'll just laugh.
Yeah.
So would you go again? Then?
Oh, yeah.
Have you been again?
No.
Oh, so you've just been rafting once after all of these years in Montana.
Yeah. Well,
That's your river
again,
experience.
we do boats.
Yeah.
So it's, my husband, most recently we were at North 40 Outfitters and they had a bunch of rafts there. And he's like, maybe we should get a raft. I'm like, yeah.
For what
Seems
now?
like one more thing
Yep.
that we won't
What
use
you won't
a whole
use.
bunch.
Yeah.
And so,
Because you have a boat or access to a boat,
two.
right? Okay.
and that sounds elitist. I get that, people. But we have two boats, one for the river and one for the lake.
Okay. They're separate kinds.
Yeah.
Also, we're not talking like
No.
$1 million yachts here.
No, we're talking about one boat that my husband inherited from his father, who
Okay.
bought it when he was a child.
Okay.
Not when my husband was a child, but when my father was a child.
Okay. It's well seasoned.
Yes, it's gorgeous. Works really good. I mean,
It floats. I mean, that's the
Yeah.
that's the best part.
so we use that on the river, and
Okay.
then we use the other boat on the lake. So
Gotcha.
rafting's not my thing. It was fun.
Yeah.
And I would pay someone else to take me
Yeah.
rafting.
Those are
again.
worth the cost to have
Yeah.
somebody do all of the work behind getting
Yeah.
a raft ready for these trips.
And they do it all the time. So when some idiot falls out the side of a
Bounces
raft,
out.
They're like, oh yeah, we got this.
You're fine. Just stand up.
That water's rushing pretty fast, but use all the strength you've got and all your coordination and try and stand up in the water. But
the reasons why you fell out of the boat, try to use those same things that didn't work to keep you in the boat to now stand up.
Yeah. So that's my one experience rafting, which is probably why I think kayaking might not be such a strong thing because, again, balance, not my strong suit.
Okay. Here's the thing. I think you'd be fine. The most challenging part is getting in and out by your own choice of the kayak. So that's the hardest part. And that's where it's nice to have somebody because they'll kind of try to hold. You put, half, 3/4 of the kayak into the water, have someone on the shore, you have someone stand and hold the front part of the kayak that's on the shore while you climb into it.
Okay.
And they try to keep it steady. So that's the hardest part because especially the ones you sit down into, they're rounded on the side. So you kind of go back and forth a little bit. So that might be your struggle is just getting in the kayak and sitting down and being okay. But I think once you're in there, you'll be okay.
So that's the part I've been practicing.
You've been practicing?
Right. I told you I sat on a kayak on the banks of a lake.
Okay, yes. Now we're coming full circle to this story.
This story. So I have a new friend, we'll call her new girl, and she has kayaks for herself and her kids, and they spend a lot of time at the lakes and rivers, and they like to be in water.
Okay.
They're originally from the Whitefish area, so they grew up on water.
Like Flathead Lake and things?
Yeah. And so they had their kayaks there out while they were camping, and I thought, it's hot out. I'm going to dip myself in the water a little bit. And my husband says, hey, come sit in these kayaks. Let's see how we do. Because we were in a lake that, kind of like Wadsworth Pond. Okay. So I'm like, we'll give it a shot.
I'll less stay intimidating.
Close here to shore, because you don't need a lot of water, in my opinion, knowing nothing about kayaking. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, you need something besides the shore to officially be kayaking. Yes.
So we got off and I'm crawling into the kayak. One is a children's kayak where you sit on top of it.
Yeah, the topsider.
Yeah. And the other one is an adult sized kayak, again, that you sit on top of.
Okay.
So I start in the kids' kayak. I don't know if this is, because my husband was in the adult kayak.
Okay.
So that's the one that was available.
Okay.
So I asked new girl's son, I said, hey, can I try and sit in your kayak? Yeah, but don't fall off. Thanks for that advice.
It's really helpful.
I don't want that either, but this could be an ultimate result here. So I crawl onto this kayak.
Okay,
and it
crawl?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like you lobster crawl on top of it. I got my feet in.
I really wish Robert would have been videoing this.
So I got to flip my legs in and it starts tipping. Yeah. I'm like, I'm going in. I'm drowning.
You just succumbed immediately as soon as it started.
So I'm like, this isn't working well. So I straddle it.
Okay.
I don't put my legs on it.
Yeah.
I put my legs over it.
Which is
so like I'm going to
challenging.
Yes. Yes. Doesn't look good at all.
And also, they're pretty wide.
Well,
to be able to Anyway, continue with your story.
They are. It is wide.
Yeah.
And I'm doing a pretty good job of balancing.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
How do I get both my legs in at the same time to maintain my balance? So I try. My core isn't very tight. I don't know if you've noticed. My core is not very tight. So I'm like trying.
Did you jump?
Sitting on the kayak and I'm holding on to the sides. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna lift my legs and throw them in, and that didn't work. So I'm like, okay, that's not gonna work. So then
it didn't work. Like there was no movement that happened, or you banged the side.
When I got to the position where I thought my core was gonna lift my legs in, my core did not lift my legs in. So I'm like, okay. So then I can't stay balanced and then crunch what I need to lift my legs on my own. So I'm like, okay, this just is not going to work at all. So I tried the one leg method. I do okay.
Is this while you're still in like lobster position, or you're straddled over the?
I've got my butt in the seat.
Okay.
My legs over the sides of the kayak.
Okay.
So I'm like sitting like I'm riding a motorcycle.
Okay.
So I do one leg in and I wiggle. I put the other leg in and I wiggle. I'm like, how do you balance in this thing? And so I finally got balanced.
Are you still you're still on the shore, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Still on, well,
Half in, half out kind
Yeah.
of? Okay.
and it's not like the back half, it's like the left half is in the water, the right half is on the banks of the shore.
Okay. So like if you fell while you were skiing and you're trying to stand up from falling from skiing, like you're what is that, perpendicular?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think that's the best decision.
No, Shannon, none of this was a good decision. So I was like, I'm so proud that I know someone who can kayak.
Oh my gosh. Like because I've successfully gone on the
Right.
water in it?
Yeah. So you start from where I'm at, seeing you actually succeed in doing it.
Okay.
Might as well be an expert in my book.
Okay, I guess that's fair. I don't know. Okay, so
So-
what happened?
Well, I got in. I sat in it a while. It was never stable.
So the
you're
whole
on-
time you were sitting there, you're just wiggling around.
Yeah. And the kayak is, floating back and forth like a kayak would do in the water.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, I'm done with this. So I just bailed off it.
How were you going to get into were you ever planning to go fully into this lake pond?
Not really.
Okay.
I mean, if I had some comfort level, if it didn't feel so disgusting on this child's kayak, I might have done something more. But I didn't even have the
Or
there we go. Paddle.
Mm-hmm. So I think you should try it again, but don't go don't go sideways, half side. One side in the water and out. Like do the nose into the back end or whatever into the water.
And then have a friend push me off.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I don't trust any of my friends.
That's going to be
much.
better. Well, this way when somebody pushes, you're at least going out into the water versus just over, sideways. I don't know how you would have made it into the water like that.
Well, eventually, I think I could have gotten it just in.
Yeah, you would have needed a paddle, though.
Yeah.
You would have needed a paddle.
They had the little handle on the front.
Uh-huh.
And Robert was getting close to me.
Okay.
I eventually thought, like, if I was getting the hang of it, that Robert would just pull me out and that the boy on the shore would throw me a paddle.
Okay.
He was, he's very supportive, the boy on the shore.
Okay.
And he said, you're not doing real good. I said, I can tell that myself. I don't need you to share that with me.
Again, very helpful.
But he's like, yeah, maybe this isn't your thing right now. And then I thought, well, maybe it's because it's a kid's paddleboard. So
Yeah. The kayak. Yeah.
yeah, it's a kayak.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's not as.
I mean, that could have also been part of the issue.
Maybe if it was longer, I had
I
a
think
better
you need
chance.
to try again.
Oh, I'm going to.
Oh, good. Okay.
I'm not going to do it like on a river. I'm going to do it in a safe
Yeah.
space.
No, you could
Till I
try
can
it
get
at
the balance.
Wadsworth.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. No, I think that's the best way to do it is if you start on either the Missouri and the really like calm section or on a lake, because you don't just want to dive right into the more rapid water.
Even though I've watched it on YouTube, which probably makes me an expert.
Kind of like if you have a medical condition, you look it up and then diagnose yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. You didn't see it on TikTok? You love TikTok.
I should do
I'm
some
sure you can look up
kayaking
kayaking
searching.
things on TikTok.
There we
Yes,
go.
Yes. So I was, because, okay, you told me, let's talk about kayaking. I have some theories and stories, and you've been, so you know. So I was looking up some kayaking basics this morning. I'm like, I really don't know anything. I don't want to entirely steer people wrong. So you're talking about the core strength. Torso control is it is one of the main things about kayaking. People can't see, but I'm sitting here in my chair holding my torso and twisting to show Rebecca what that means. Yeah. No, but torso strength, and when you're actually paddling out there or trying to steer through waves or rapids or just steer, your core strength and balance, because your core helps keep you balanced. It helps keep you, move you, balance you out. So, I mean, having control of your core, at least in some capacity, is a good thing when you're really needing to not just float in a kayak.
So being on the water in a boat, my husband always says to me, you have to read the river.
Okay.
I don't know what that means, but
You haven't learned to read the river yet?
no, and I'm sure it has something to do.
Does he know how to read the river?
Yes, but he's
just says
also
it.
spent more time
Yeah, so he gets it.
reading the river than I have. So I'm sure it has something to do with avoiding sandbars and where the channels are and that kind of
Rocks.
stuff. Yeah. Makes sense in a boat. I don't know if you need to know how to read the river in a kayak.
I think if you're going with other people and there's a group of you, so you're all kind of watching, but I think you need to have an awareness of what's ahead of you in the river, for sure. Again, we're talking, well, any water, you should have an awareness of what's coming up. If you're in just calm water, this is, look ahead. Is there a big rock coming up? Do you see any weird, eddies, in the water?
Never even thought of that because you just get in there and spin.
Yep, gotten kind of stuck in those before. So you do need to look ahead, because even calm water, there can be, the rocks or the spots of the little eddies and stuff in the. How would you, if somebody doesn't know what an eddy is, how would it's
like
a twist, like an opposite,
like when you flush
direction
the
in
toilet, how the water
Yeah.
goes down. That's an eddy.
Yeah, there can be, so there's that little spinning. There'll just be spots in the river where that can happen. And it's not going to, if it's just calm river, it's not going to suck you down into it, but you can get kind of stuck in that spot. So where you do have to paddle out more. So you can be watching for that, because even in calm areas, I think at least you can have those. So yes, you need to be able to read the river in the sense that you're watching for things like that. And rocks, depending on the water level, rocks you won't necessarily see, but they can be right under the surface, and it'll just look like, a change in the water or a tiny little hump that the water's going over. So you need to be aware that there are rocks directly under the water that you can't see very far in advance. So you have to pay attention to that, because you can get caught up on the rock too.
How deep does the kayak sit in the water?
Not very deep. I don't.
She's using her hands.
I'm trying to figure well, I don't know an exact measurement, because the kayak itself is pretty shallow. It's not like a super, because even the ones you sit down in,
they're not very.
It's not like you're
deep.
up to your waist in the water. You're just sitting down in it a little bit more, so it's still not.
Yeah,
you're not that far into it. But the rocks, especially when you get later in the summer in Montana and the Missouri and things,
and the water goes down.
The water level's lower, so you have to watch out, because there are lots of little rocks or boulders in there that you can scrape the bottom of your kayak going over on the calm ones, or in the more intense water, those will really throw you, and you have to be careful. So,
yeah. Tip you on your side.
Yes. That's
Silly
happened.
Rocks.
Yeah, I went on the Dearborn River
and I hear a lot
summer.
of people do the Dearborn.
I went with a group of people. One of them, a friend of ours, he's a very good kayaker. He has a lot of experience, and I wouldn't do that river, especially the time that we went, any other way, because I was not expecting it to be as intense or as long of a trip as it was. We were probably on the river for about 8 hours.
Oh my.
Which, the whole time paddling.
Yeah, that's
we took
a long
couple
time.
breaks, but there was not, the other times I've been kayaking, I've been I'll paddle a little bit to steer where I want to go, but the rest of the time I can basically sit there and float. This was not one of those trips at all. I don't think, maybe 30 seconds at a time here or there, I could rest and not be paddling.
Oh my goodness.
I was so sore.
Yeah.
So sore.
That's a huge workout.
It's a huge workout. And at the end, we're 7 hours in here, last hour of the trip. I'm exhausted. I've also fallen in the water 3-4 times because of these big rapids and kind of dangerous, actually. and I'm exhausted. My arm's tired. I have some weird elbow thing going on, so this arm like barely wants to move anyway. Oh my gosh. And you're just tired, but you can't stop paddling because you're still not in just a floating zone. No, you can't like not paddle. So that one, I'm really glad I did that trip because it was really fun. It's beautiful. The areas of the Dearborn, you go through these like canyons. It's a gorgeous area.
Now, I'm going to say this. I might
Okay.
be wrong. I think the Dearborn's relatively shallow, so you can't go do that with a boat. You'd have to do that with
you
like
have to do that on a raft or kayak or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
I might be wrong.
That seems right. I mean, I don't remember seeing any boats.
Yeah.
Yeah. We went in early June of last year, so the water was pretty. I've learned this after the fact that it was maybe not the greatest time to go, or that it was a little dangerous then.
Yeah.
Which made sense in some of the circumstances that I got myself into. Because while I've been kayaking a few times, I'm not like an expert kayaker. My brain gets twisted around sometimes thinking about like which way I'm supposed to be like paddling and which side and how
do you turn?
Yeah, and to get around these rocks. So not only were you paddling the whole time, but you also have these like they're not rapids in the sense that they're like the huge whitewater rapids, but were a lot of rocks that created a lot of rapids, then that you had to steer your way through. And there was one section where all but my expert friend, we got out and walked our kayaks around this one section because of the rapids and the drop and the rocks. I just didn't try. My competitive with myself part of me was like, let's just do it. Then the like, hey, you're tired and you haven't done this and you could legit like hit your head on a rock or drown. Maybe you shouldn't try this. So
yeah,
I went with that.
I'm glad that
brain.
voice.
Well,
glad that voice.
I debate it still, but I made it out alive, so that was good. There was also, I lost my kayak a couple times too.
Wait. You sit on it. How did you lose it?
Okay, well, when you follow, so I was in a topsider.
Okay.
Which the topsider is, especially when you're going over these rocks or rapid kind of areas, from my understanding, and seemed to prove true, the topsider can tip a little bit easier just because of the shape and how you're sitting on it.
Okay.
So I did tip, but it was like in rapids, so the boat would flip. Like I'm off of it. I'm trying to hold on to the boat, but mostly make sure I'm not drowning.
Right.
So there were times when that would
disappear.
And so
okay.
And that happened to multiple people in my group. So somebody would like
so you're not unique.
Paddle down the river to go get it. I'm trying to think, maybe I didn't lose mine. I was able to grab it and hang on to it. But I know somebody at least did. It was an adventure. So so also while I'm floating, trying to like hold on to the boat so it doesn't leave, trying to not drown, and then like navigate around. I'm trying to also then flip, like while you're in the water, you're trying to flip the kayak back over.
I'm done at this point.
Get on it again.
Yeah.
Which is another challenging part. Also on the topsider,
I
did it all. I'm really glad that I had this excursion, and don't let this was an unexpected, harder trip, so don't let this steer you away from calm lake floating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, that's available in the area if you're a little bit more advanced in your skill set.
Yes, it is available. Also, bring dry bags.
Oh, yeah.
Because when your boat flips, also attach them to the kayak somehow. Because when your kayak flips, you have, say, your phone, your keys for your vehicle, a snack, whatever. Make sure they're in a dry bag, and then make sure that dry bag is attached somehow to the kayak, because if you fall and it flips,
your stuff flies everywhere.
Things will either, you're going to lose, your phone's going to be dead and your keys are at the bottom of a river. So one, have a dry bag, and two, make sure it's secure, because otherwise your stuff is floating separately down the river. Again, experience.
There you are with a net trying to get all your stuff back.
But also you're in rapids and you're with a group, so you're trying to not drown. You're trying to get a hold of like the kayak mainly, and then try to get other things.
This seems like the point where like on the paddleboard and you're strapped to it and you fall off, you don't have to worry about finding it because you're attached to it.
Yeah, I haven't strapped myself to the paddleboard.
Oh.
I have another story about that, but which also somehow people were stand up paddleboarding on these same spots that we were kayaking on. I don't know how. I couldn't stay on sitting in my kayak. These people are standing on paddle boards going through this. That's a next level.
Clearly, there are people out there that have more talents than we do.
Yes. That one takes... that's a whole nother level.
Here you go. I'm putting it out into the universe.
Okay.
If you were the person on the paddleboard watching Shannon float down the Dearborn after a wreck, give us a call.
Yeah.
We'd love to have you on.
Also, I'd be impressed because these people were going very quickly and just went right on by me. So I'd be surprised
We'd
if they
like
saw.
to learn. We'd like to learn how you do this.
I was proud of myself because I made it through that trip
yeah.
alive and relatively unscathed, except for being really sore, even with some of those flips and things like that. So no head on the rock thing, thankfully.
Yeah.
You know, it was a really good trip.
Do you wear a helmet?
So I was just thinking that we didn't have helmets on, but if you're going to be doing stuff like if you're going to be doing intense kayaking, like I would highly recommend that because there's rocks.
Also, if you're like me and you're going to be in very calm water on a raft, I'd recommend a helmet.
That's why I say definitely life vest, right? Like a minimum.
Life vest at the minimum. I have another friend that actually got a helmet one year for Christmas just to wear at all times.
That's probably smart.
Kind of the crew I hang out with.
I like it. I wear a helmet when I ski, which is another good idea. And I was going through the trees once, coming out up at Showdown, and I hit like I was coming out of the trees. Granted, like I don't go skiing through the trees a lot. Like it was a little path through the trees, right? I'm not that intense.
Skiing.
So I just went through this
Backcountry.
little like path in this tree section between two runs. But I came out and like there was a little lip right as I was coming out, and I got caught in it. So I went smack like head first into the snow, and I felt my head like bounce within the helmet.
Oh no.
So I still like got like a little bit of like a stiff neck kind of situation or whatever later that day, and that was with the helmet. So like
was your helmet not tight enough?
No, I mean it is. That's what I was.
It was just that big of
but
a
it just
hit?
I guess enough that it bounced a little bit. I don't know. Anyway, the point is I should be a helmet person more often too. Growing up riding horses and stuff, I mean that was when I took lessons as a kid. They always made you wear a helmet, and I just kind of kept doing that a lot because I'm like it's a long way to the ground.
Seems like a good thing to wear.
Minimum life vest if you're going to be doing the real rapids and things like that. Helmets are always a good idea. But
how many times total have you been kayaking?
Well, what do we consider kayaking?
Like seems like a Bill Clinton question. You're sitting in a kayak and there's water.
So, okay, I don't know how many, if that's the case, because I've been like in a kayak and just kind of done a little bit around. Okay, it counts a calm pond. Yeah. I don't know. 10 plus times.
Oh, so quite a few.
Maybe, if counting like just those quick little lake excursions. Maybe 10. Yeah, maybe.
We talked on the podcast, not you and me, but Maddie and I, about my trip to Swift Dam, and the calm waters up there are absolutely gorgeous. Be perfect for kayaking.
For you to.
We decided this was the time when my husband says we should get a canoe.
Oh, okay. So he wants a raft and a canoe
and a canoe.
Okay.
And a kayak, but I told him I'm not ready to let him have a kayak yet.
That seems harder to get in and out of a canoe.
So that's what I said. I said,
because then there's another person here.
There's been 20 years of us together. What on planet Earth makes you think us two in a canoe?
A team in a canoe
is a great idea. This is not something that I believe will be solid for our marriage.
Yeah.
But it looked fun. We saw other people and they were just like flying through the water and they're just well-oiled machine.
Oh,
They
they're just
looked like
rowing together. Yeah.
They looked like an Olympic team.
Synchronized.
It was gorgeous to watch.
And Robert thought, yes, that's us.
I can do that with my wife. No, pal, you can't. There's not a scenario in the immediate future where we look that good. So,
starters is, can we both get in the canoe?
So I look at a canoe, and it's a little bit more narrow, or let me call it aerodynamic. It doesn't look as balanced as the flat bottom of a kayak.
Yeah.
So I'm not 100% sold on this. However, I do want to do the White Cliffs. Yeah. We're going to need a canoe or a raft for that.
Okay.
But we started slow. After our trip, he says, I'll get you a paddleboard. So I got a blow-up, stand-up paddleboard for my birthday.
Okay.
Last year or 2 years ago?
That's the kind I have.
Yeah. Still sitting in the box.
So this is one of his things where he thought this would be a good idea.
And this is my fear. Like, we're going to invest in all this stuff, and we're going to use it once or never. And then
have a bad experience.
It's all... Montana's amazing, but the season to use some of this stuff is pretty small.
Short, unless you're just really, really intense person. Yeah.
Like if you're, going to do spring
runoff. I know someone
runoff
who goes kayaking in the wintertime. Yeah.
It won't be me.
No, but it exists. It happens.
Yeah, it does. But if you're just the novice, the hobbyist when it comes to water recreation, these are
it's a
things
shorter season for that
you're not going to get a lot of time to do unless you're really committed and you work just in the winter and summer you have to play. But
that sounds like fun.
Yeah. I took a class last night that told me how to do that, so let's see how it works.
Okay, well, we'll talk tips and secrets after this. Yeah.
That had a lot to do with standard operating procedures, and I'm like, I need to get on that.
In a tourism job, you take summers off? That doesn't make sense.
No. I can't imagine a job where you can take summers off unless you're a teacher.
Right.
And then I think
even then they're still planning and
So anyway, I'm excited to use my stand-up paddleboard, and I think once I get a hang of that, we'll see how that goes. Maybe kayaking is in my future, but I believe canoeing will be better.
Okay.
And then I might just end up buying a kayak for my husband after the canoe experience because I don't foresee it going well.
Yeah. So you should rent a canoe or borrow a canoe.
Yeah.
And not buy a canoe. So I will say, if you get comfortable with paddleboarding or you try your stand-up paddleboard, kayaking, I feel like is going to feel easier because it takes more balance and guts, I feel like, to get on the paddleboard, especially a blow-up paddleboard.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you have a paddleboard, you're going to have no problem with the kayak.
So our listeners will be very excited to hear my story of paddleboarding for the first time.
Okay.
Can't wait for that to happen.
So I will say my paddleboard, granted, I was excited about it. Blow up one so it can store better. At the time I lived in an apartment, so great. I've handful of time used it. The downfall to a blow up one is that it then takes more work once you get to where you're going and things to actually get it ready.
Yeah.
But went to Holter Lake with my paddleboard for my birthday a couple years ago. So my birthday's in August, so it's a night typically warm and nice. It was kind of warm.
Hot. I would say hot.
Yeah, this is true. So typically hot and sunny often. It was not that warm, and it was warm-ish, but it was definitely not hot. The sun was not out. It was cloudy. The wind was coming, like a storm was moving in.
Oh, sounds like a perfect day for me.
So this is when I went out paddleboarding. And I have my dog Watson with me because part of why I like paddleboard is great, my dog can get on there with me. Which is great, except when the water is choppy because it's windy and a storm's moving in. You're on a stand-up blow-up paddleboard. Both you and the dog are trying to balance on choppy water. Dog starts getting more nervous, so he's moving around. I'm trying to stabilize. We both fall off. My poor dog goes under the water.
Oh, no.
The paddleboard is floating away because I'm trying to make sure Watson's, we're both not dying and drowning here. So then the paddleboard, because it's choppy, windy, whatever, the paddleboard is floating away, and then it goes around like a corner, and I'm trying to, I think, yeah, I did have a life vest on my dog too.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Which thankfully, because he like went fully under the water. Poor dog inhaled all this. He's freaking out. I'm trying to hold on to him. The paddleboard's like around this bend now. So I'm trying to swim with my dog who's, trying to recover from,
inhaling
he
the
loves
lake.
to swim, but
Yeah.
he doesn't dive usually. Trying to get that go around, get the paddleboard. I was going to try to get us both back on and sit on it. There's no way in the middle of the lake, not in the middle, but not in shallow water, around this bend, choppy water, trying to get both of us somehow back onto the paddleboard. Can't happen. I don't remember. Did I get him on the paddleboard? I think I was trying to see if I could. And my dog's 70 pounds. He's not
and he's wet.
And he's a wet, scared dog. I'm trying to remember if I actually successfully got him on the paddleboard. Probably not. I can't imagine I did. So I'm trying to swim, pull the paddleboard with one arm, make sure Watson's not swimming off in the other one, come around the bend. I don't think anyone's really seen everything that's happened.
Well,
They're
because
on
you
the
would
shore.
think there's tons of people on Holter. They'd come to your aid.
But it's also not a great day at this point.
Right.
So,
and I have tried to get out. If you fall off into the water and then you have to get back on.
yeah.
That's not easy.
No.
If you've never done it,
No.
you look ridiculous.
You look
half the
ridiculous. You
time.
just have to kind of throw that to the wind and not
then you're
care.
constantly trying to get legs up in
Yes.
positions they never go. And
I feel like if you're in the middle of a lake or something, though, that it would almost be easier to get on a paddleboard than into a kayak again, because the paddleboard is at least flat. You can kind of throw yourself across it and then
there's
shimmy.
no tipping.
Yeah. I mean, it tips, but it's easier because it's just like a board, so
Right.
you can kind of throw yourself across and shimmy around a little bit. I don't know how you would do that in the middle of a lake with a kayak.
Or a raft.
Or a raft. I mean, ideally with the raft, other people are on it and they can kind of
Help
pull
you in. Yeah.
Huh. But I want to try paddleboarding with Watson again when it's calm
And beautiful.
and sunny and nice. And also, so paddleboarding, you can, the idea is to eventually fully stand up on it, right? But you can also kind of kneel or even sit cross-legged
Yep.
and do that if you're coordinated and flexible and things like that, which in your knees, kind of hurt if you're bending,
Right.
But there's options on a paddleboard. So I got a little too eager to stand up to this day. I think if I would have just stayed on my knees, that also
Would have helped.
would have helped a little bit too. So I need to ease into it again.
What kind of dog is Watson?
So Watson's, today is Watson's 6th birthday.
Holy
and
moly,
I'm
happy
obsessed with
birthday,
my dog,
Watson.
So of course we're celebrating his birthday. He's a mutt. He's a rescue shelter dog. So he's, my theories change. So he's some type of hound shepherd lab mix of some kind. He's a brindle coloring, but not he doesn't have pitbull or anything in him. So that brindle has to come from somewhere. And I think maybe a plot hound.
Okay.
He's the best dog in the world. Yeah.
Except he's
almost
not
drowned.
super helpful.
He's not super helpful in that circumstance. He was
getting
kind of a
back on
baby. Yeah. But I don't blame him. It
Yeah.
was not the best day to be out there. So, yeah. So Watson and I will attempt again to
Look
paddleboard.
at all the stories you guys have to look forward
Yes.
to hearing.
I really want to buy a kayak. Getting back to kayak
topic of our podcast
Yes.
today.
I really would like to purchase and have a kayak as well. But my stipulation is I would like one that Watson can be in or on with me. But again, Watson's 70 pounds.
Right.
And trying to find one, just logistically, how he can sit in it, it would have to be in front of me.
Right.
But then how do I paddle? Would a topsider probably be better? Because then there's a little more room.
With as big as he is, maybe a 2-person kayak.
Maybe he just sits in the front seat. A canoe. I should just get a canoe.
So we had a dog, and when my husband started talking about this canoe, the dog was still around, and I'm like, I don't foresee a scenario where the dog and I don't get kicked out of the canoe for not sitting still
properly
enough or not doing our jobs and making sure the canoe goes well. So just another reason why canoes and and my family
Are
aren't
not a
really
good idea.
going to go well together.
Okay. Yeah.
But I do love the fact that my husband is
Wants to explore these options.
completely unaware of our actual marriage and believes that there's this beautiful moment that's going to occur with us in a canoe and everybody's happy and there's rainbows and unicorns.
Is that
It's
at
not
this
gonna
point?
happen.
At this point in the marriage, is that still like endearing, or is it just like
Part of
stop?
it is endearing and part of me is like,
No.
are we
Living
in
the same
different
life?
marriages? Like, because I've been around for 20 years.
Mhm.
Have you been with someone else? Because
Are you thinking I'm her?
this is not what I would expect.
From the outside, it's endearing that he still wants to try.
Yeah.
From the inside, I can imagine maybe it's not as endearing.
And you just look at him and you wonder, have
What's
you
your
not been paying
process here?
attention? But
Yeah.
yeah. I'm excited for the stand-up paddleboard. I think that'll be a
Yes.
good indicator on my ability for a kayak, long-term kayak.
So, getting to maybe something helpful for people to come here.
Did you come to this episode thinking you're going to get some information? No.
Came here to
This is
just
pure
listen to us
entertainment
chat,
today.
Yeah. So, okay, there are a lot of options for where you can float, kayak, paddleboard, all of that in our area, whether it be, you start at Wadsworth Pond, small, calm pond there. There's the Missouri, which runs the gamut of options there for a lot of its calm sections that are, you stay in Great Falls, do a quick drive out, float the river for a couple hours or however long. You can go a little further to the Dearborn, things like that. There are places where you can rent, and we have some new companies now where you can rent too.
Yeah, Adventure Montana is a startup company, and we should bring
them on.
John and Alicia on. They're great conversationalists.
They're wonderful humans. Yes.
Alicia would probably look at us and go, "How do you guys do a
How are you
weekly
alive?"
podcast?" But they would be fun to have on.
They
But
would.
their company, Adventure Montana, is like a Airbnb for equipment. So
Great concept.
yeah, like my
So a rental
paddleboard.
company.
Yeah, my paddleboard could be on their website, and you could
Oh.
rent my paddleboard that I'm not using when I'm not using it.
And then you just get a little bit of the,
Yeah.
I should do that with mine too.
Yeah. So if you have a
It's a whole other
bicycle
idea.
that you don't
Yeah.
ride, you can list your bicycle and then other people can rent it. So
Yeah.
it's kind of a nice little mechanism for that.
Okay.
So, and then we also have Bighorn Outdoor Specialists that have kayaks. And then here's my big plug for that.
Okay.
Don't take any of the advice we have
Ask the experts.
on how to kayak, where to put kayaks in,
Yeah.
how to read the river. Talk to them about it because they're actually smart.
They actually know.
Yeah. I would trust my life with them.
Oh, yes.
I would not trust my life with me.
I thought you were going to say me, and I was like, well, that's fair.
No, me. I would trust my life with you. I mean, you've been like 10 times and you've
maybe
made
not
it through.
your smartest decision.
If you are the type of person who like my husband, we're just going to buy and go. You can buy them at Bighorn, but you can also get them at Shields as well. Also, Shields has experts to help you navigate the waters as well.
Yes.
Now, the other really interesting thing, I think Montana River Outfitters also rents
I don't know
rafts.
specifically about that. I know you can do rafts through them, and then you can also, of course, have a guided rafting trip, which is a really fun way to do it, too.
Right. But then the other thing is they know stuff. So if you really want to,
Yeah.
we had a lady about a year ago want to do something on the Sun River, which is right here in Great Falls.
Yeah.
But it also goes up into the mountains because it's a river and that's where they
That's
start.
what happens. Yeah.
So I didn't know anything. I'm like, oh, yeah, I know it exists. And it's
Yeah.
right here in town.
Uh-huh.
That's all I've got for you.
Yeah.
And so I connected her with Montana River Outfitters and they
Yeah.
got her some information about the Sun. So these are things we don't know.
Right. So I will say if you're going to go kayaking, you need to not do it. You can't do it right in the middle of Great Falls because we have 5 dams.
Yeah.
And you don't want to go around. It's just not a smart idea.
People portage those with canoes, but I don't think they've ever kayaked. Oh, I will tell you, right at the base of Black Eagle Falls, there's a little
island?
whitewater
Oh,
ripple
Mm-hmm.
that people will go and do. And so it's between Black Eagle Falls and
Yes.
Giant Springs.
Okay. I think I know what you're talking about.
That's all I know.
Yeah.
That is the one piece of information I have.
I would say this is where I would be scared because there's, I'm sure, all kinds of undercurrents and things happening when you get close to those dams. So just
Yeah. You're
just
going to
be aware that you can go. So places like Broadwater Bay,
right.
you can put in and go up
Yep.
the water a different direction.
And then float back down.
Mm-hmm.
But also, maybe not your first time. Like,
Yeah.
make it your 20th time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you have a little more, you can read the river better. And you can,
And you've
you
had
know
some
which direction
experiences.
to paddle
Yeah.
and things like that.
You've
Yeah,
had some experiences of falling out and getting back in. Those type of
Yes.
things are important.
they are important. I will say I do love, I mean, there's many, many things I love about living here because, you know, as our slogan says, we're a base camp for
We
art
are.
and adventure, right? So, and the adventure component, I mean, I love that I can go out any day of the week, especially during the summer when it stays light so late. I could get
Yeah.
off work and go, you know, drive for a couple minutes and put in and kayak or raft
Right.
or use my paddleboard. You know, it's a wonderful thing about whether you live here or you're coming to visit. Like those options are essentially endless in our area for being able to go and enjoy the river.
And if it is your first time and you want to get on the river, don't be afraid.
Yeah. Take someone with you. Don't go alone.
Be smart,
Yeah.
but don't be afraid.
Right.
Everything will work out fine, as Shannon has proved. She's still here.
If you as our stories have shown, everything works out just fine. Yeah. Well, we're both still alive and smiling about it, so
Yeah.
that's good. Yeah.
Everything works out for the good.
Yeah.
Any other stories to share?
No, I think I covered most of it.
Okay.
Yeah. You any more theories or struggles?
No, mostly my theories have to do with falling out and never getting back in.
And those are still my fears, is getting trapped under the water. But again, do it smart, do it smartly, go with people who know what they're doing. Start on nice calm sections. Know the river and the water, whatever that's ahead of you, so you aren't caught not feeling confident.
100%.
Yeah.
And if you need information on how to recreate on the water,
Or what not to do.
we do have a page in our Basecamp magazine that talks about water safety. Not written by us, but written by someone who is an expert in the water. And it had a lot of the tips you already had. So well done.
Oh, thank
Shannon.
you.
It was like a
I'm
test. You did it.
basically an expert now. Can't be
Pretty
on
much.
this podcast anymore.
But more importantly, we'll connect you with the people locally that can make sure you have a fantastic time on the water, because you
Absolutely.
do not want to be taking directions
We will not be your guides.
from whoever shows up at the desk to greet you while you're here. So until we see your bright, smiling, happy, beautiful face here in Great Falls, we hope you're having an amazing time creating memories with friends and family.
We're No Dam Experts is the recorded claims from Great Falls, Montana, covering what you need to know about this amazing damn town. Damn, that felt good.